Hiya, hotties. Welcome back to the Real House Guest of North Hollywood. I am your host, Carson Frey. How the fuck are you guys doing? I'm back. It's a solo episode. I'm trying this new thing where I feel like whenever I have a guest host on, it's an hour-long podcast, but then I do a solo and it's like 15 minutes. So we're going to try and make all the episodes, the long ones a little bit shorter and the shorter ones a little bit longer, you know? But we're all figuring it out. If you're one of our like very few audio only listeners, you're like, oh my God, she sounds different. And if you're watching this, you can see we have a new mic. I'm learning that why people wear headphones. If you have been listening since the start, thank you. And especially if you're not like my parents, because we have been doing and learning. And you know what's funny about this is we're like, we don't want to learn as we go. We're going to do a bunch of practice podcasts for a few months before we start releasing. But you know, no matter what you do, you learn as you go. So it's fine. But if you like our new setup, if it sounds good, comment on this, tell your friends, because I like doing this. Okay, so let's start off with some Bravo news. So if you know me, you know I love Stassi. You know I've been all about this like Euro trip. It's been so fun for me to watch. Like literally, I've just been watching her and Bone. I've been like, I hope my 30s like looks like that. So she is back though from her Euro trip and she's on a little book tour. And I was thinking, should we do her book next month for book club? Now we're doing Carol Ratswell right now, What Remains. But I kind of think we should do it. So if you think that, comment on that. But honestly, we're probably going to do it anyway, as long as I can get a copy of the book. So Dr. Nicole, there was a lot of like talk this week because Real Housewives of Miami just picked up cameras. At first, they were like, oh, Lisa's not coming back because it wasn't like in her bio. It said seasons like 2 through 6. So Lisa is coming back, but then it was like, oh, is Nicole coming back? And there was like some reporting that kind of said no and maybe and kind of back and forth. And then Nicole kind of just shut everything down today by saying, I'm not coming back because I have been dealing with very difficult postpartum anxiety and, you know, was really breaking a lot of stigma just talking about it. Like every time I hear, because I feel like on Bravo, we do talk about postpartum a lot just because of what the network's kind of based around. And postpartum depression and anxiety is so normal. And I can imagine, like, if you're suffering, why would you want to be on Housewives? Like, in that specific moment. So I hope the doors open for some appearances. I hope, like, when she's ready, she comes back because I love Dr. Nicole. My favorite part of Miami. So I somehow slightly involved myself with some VPR drama this week. So, I don't know if you guys saw, but like Schwartz just moved out of his apartment into a new place and he was like posting photos. And then Jax finally moved out of his house with Brittany and was like posting photos. So another account was like, oh my God, did they move in together? So I reposted on my account, my Instagram, and was like, oh my God, Schwartz, Jax, are you living together? And I tagged them. Jax responded to me and said, no, we have our own townhomes. I don't know if that means they're like living in the same like condo, like if they're like neighbors. I feel like that is the case, but at least they're not living together, you know? At least like Schwartz isn't bringing back his 22-year-old girlfriend Sophia to like Jax Taylor crying over his divorce papers. At least there's that like separation. So we have some updates with the Chef Penny lawsuit with Ariana and Katie. I was like just thinking, I was like, what's up with it? So I decided to go on Reddit because that's the best way to learn about stuff, honestly, in Bravo. Just like if you really want, because like, yeah, you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to my podcast, and I'll always tell you, but if you want to be quick, go to Reddit. So basically what's going on is Penny basically thinks she should be a partner because she filed hold for the trademark. Katie and Ariana are saying it's a fraudulent trademark because they didn't want to work. So she's basically holding this trademark thing over their head. And then with the whole lawsuit, they asked the court to hold off a ruling on the trademark until they rule off on the partnership. So it's like a 180. So yeah, the whole thing is wild on Chef Penny's part. And I hope I feel in my soul with this level up Ariana has gone through that she probably has like the best lawyer. You know? Like on Bravo, she probably is the best lawyer. Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Who is watching? I know it's not Bravo, but I am so like ready for Salt Lake City. It's so good. So good. Who's your favorite? I love Taylor. Maybe because she's the only one that kind of looks different. I like her. I like Jessie. I hate Whitney. Oh my God. Whitney triggers me. Whitney reminds me of like every girl that was like mean to me in middle school in Indiana. Like that's what she feels like. And it's like so cringy. And yeah, so like let's talk about them all. Okay. I have like a breakdown by the sinners and the saints. So on the saint side, we have Jen Affleck. What do you guys think about that? They don't use last names at all for any of the other women, but then we see Jen Affleck. So she's 25. On the Mormon scale, she's rated a 7. I don't know if they rated her or she rated herself, because to me, she seems like the most Mormon. Yeah, she's very devout. Her husband is a total dick. He's like third cousins, I think, with Ben Affleck. He's addicted to gambling, and he's just a total asshole. And he believes like he freaks out at her. I don't want to give spoilers because the whole season came out in like a day. If you don't want spoilers, I'm probably not the podcast to listen to. Like I'm just not the one. Like my friends will be like, spoiler alert. I'm like, oh, sorry. Yeah, so I guess no spoiler, but like he's a dick. We don't like Zach. And I'm not going to like attack the women too much, but men are fair game. We have Macy, who's widowed, remarried. She's rated a 4 on the Mormon scale, but she also doesn't drink. She's the one that kind of like holds the group together, and I guess her first husband died in a car accident before the baby was born. Wasn't really touched upon that much, but I guess it's like a known thing in mom talk. So I hope in season 2 they kind of like go into that a little bit more. And then we have Whitney. Whitney's terrible. We don't. Oh my God. Her dancing in the hospital as her baby's like on an incubator, and she's like, oh, like, oh, I don't know if you guys just caught my cat Sugar on camera. Whenever I'm recording, you guys, there's always like a bunch of cats just like slightly off camera. Yeah, Whitney's terrible. I don't really like though how everyone's talking about her husband being gay, because my first reaction was that as well. But then I'm like, it's 2024. We do not speculate on someone's sexuality anymore. Like that is so like done and over with. And like if I pull a clip from this from social media, like I will delete any comments about speculating about his sexuality. It's just like, obviously he's not in a safe place to be a gay man, you know? Like obviously I feel like Utah would be terrible. And like, so if what people are speculating is true, like no one needs to speculate it because he's not in a safe place. And it's like, he can be a dick, you know? But we don't need to be also dicks as well. And then we have Michaela. She's an ex-Mormon, you know, but she's still rated a saint. I think she's the one, yeah, so she's the one who had a baby when she was 16 and the father was 21. And I guess that's like okay for children to get married. So those are all the saints. I'm not a big fan of most of the saints except for Macy. I do like Macy. The Sinners, though. The Sinners are my girls. We got Taylor. She's the star. Taylor's the star. She's the one, like, when it came out, everyone's like, oh, it's about Mom Talk, the swinging drama from Mom Talk. She was the only one involved with that. She would be so good on Bravo because she is just so herself. And she's, like, honestly, I think it's interesting that she's considered one of the sinners. Like, I know she, like, drinks and is swung and, like, has had drama, but she's the one that seems like the most really believing in, like, the Mormon church, you know? But she's, like, the OG of Mom Talk. Then we have, it's not Demi, it's Demi. Demi? I'm pretty sure it's Demi, or Demi. Shit. Another one that's, like, hard for me. She's rated a 2 on a Mormon scale because she drinks. Oh, and she's remarried to the ex of Angie from Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. The whole Fruity Pebbles thing, that was her. Then we have Jessie. Jessie is my girl. Jessie is my favorite. I love Jessie. She's like the hair girl. Obsessed with her. And then we also have Layla, who's like the 22-year-old divorced one who has a new boyfriend. Yeah, all the saints, all the sinners, those are my girls. I'm down. But it's such an interesting, like, viewpoint on just, like, the culture in Utah specifically. And it really feels like Vanderpump Rules because they just feel so, like, they want to be famous so bad. And they're just, like, putting themselves out there, like, full frontal. And it's so interesting because Mormonism, I think how from people who aren't Mormon and don't grow up around it, it feels very like an all or nothing religion. Like, I feel like with other stuff, like, people will casually be Christian, Jewish, and Muslim. Like, it's not that crazy to know someone who's Muslim but drinks, you know? Or someone who's Christian and eats shellfish or, like, has sex before marriage or, like, but for Mormonism, I think we kind of have this expectation, and maybe they kind of do on an outside lens, but internally, like, everyone is human, you know? And it's also interesting for me seeing kind of like Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, how you can no longer be Mormon, but if you live in Utah, Mormonism is your life and you can't escape it because that is so much of the culture there. I'm also, like, so grossed out by the soda shops. Everyone's like, oh my God, I want to try swig. And I do want to try it. But also, and I drink a lot of coffee, but drinking soda at 8 a.m., gross. I'm looking at producer Ezra and he, like, doesn't drink coffee and I can see him be like, what's wrong? What's wrong with some swig? He's, like, looking at our new mics. He's like, I need my producer mic. But yeah, I just love the juxtaposition of obsession with perfectionism. Like, they can't do drugs, so they love to get Botox for the laughing gas or do ketamine. Like, it's so good. Okay, let's talk about Watch What Happens Live. Actually, no, let's talk about Dubai. We're not going to do a full recap on the reunion because recapping part 1 of we all know nothing good happens part 1. Like, part 1 of reunion is just foreplay. And, like, Andy knows it, I know it, we all know it. So we're just not going to recap it. We might have a sleepover later and, like, really break down. Like, I hope it's 3 parts, but we'll see. Okay, so for the reunion, I thought Lisa came in real hot. I mean, they all looked hot. But I think Lisa, you see her coming in being like, I have no one. Like, I have no one. Like, what am I doing? And so does Brooks. And it's interesting seeing them, like, team up because they're like, I have no one, you know? I think Ion, once again, is owning everyone. She's the best dressed. And she's just coming in. She's the most memorable. She's just like, Lisa's just so jealous of her. She really is. And I think Ion, what she can do as well is she can pull, like, Lisa's just going for the kill, and it's losing the audience. And Ion is going in for the empathy. She's like, feel my pain. I loved and I lost and I am fabulous and hurting and all the things. And she's playing to our empathy as audience members. Like, Ion, if she has strategy, doesn't come off like strategy, which is what is making her so successful, because Lisa is clearly strategizing and strategizing and strategizing. I also found it interesting how Brooke said the producers don't like her to have more than one drink. Very interesting about Brooks. Okay. So we'll watch what happens live and then Real Housewives of Orange County. It was such an interesting watch what happens live. So it was Katie, the new housewife on OC, and then Alexis. Andy was so sick. Like, and I was thinking, I'm like, okay, so Andy obviously has like watch what happens live, every night pretty much. And then he also has like his radio show, and like his voice was shot. It was dead. Like, homeboy needed to go home and sleep. Why was he still working? Like, can Andy Cohen not call out? Like, he should start having like guest hosts or something. Because yeah, he was just so sick and I just like felt bad for him. Alexis's ring is so huge. Like, when she held it up, I was like, holy shit. John Jansen, or Johnny J, though, like sitting in the audience, he had like honestly like such a dark, like scary look in his eyes. Like, it was really scary. And Johnny J does not like being called Johnny J, so I probably shouldn't be calling him Johnny J on this podcast, but it's hard. And also, like, him explaining why he won't sign the non-disparagement agreement with Shannon, being like, I have to clear my name, it's like, so you're publicly saying like you want to talk shit. Like, that is just so icky and gross. And I was also very surprised to learn on the show that Katie and Jen are super close. She said they literally talk 3 or 4 times a day. Like, I was not expecting that friendship to be like so. So yeah, it was a very interesting episode of Watch What Happens Live. Real Housewives of Orange County, season 18, episode 10. So it opens up with Shannon just like still crying to Heather, just like bawling, and like, I can't remember if I said this on my podcast or the other podcast I was on, but like Shannon in that scene is soaking wet in her emotions. She is just like crying. And I love the gesture of, I'll give you my glam. You can borrow my glam. Darling, don't worry, I got hair and makeup. We'll make you beautiful. It's very like Eliza Doolittle almost. Like, we'll make you beautiful, darling. And I like Heather kind of as that fairy godmother of the OC, in that role. It really is like fitting for her. Heather expresses being very worried about like how just fragile Shannon is, and I agree. Like, I low-key think like production was really pushing Shannon to like to the brink. It was hard. And then Emily started to tell Alexis about Shannon finding out about the videos, and Alexis immediately gets very defensive, and she's like, she doesn't know my side of the story, like da 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 da, like going on, and like, it's just showing, because on Watch What Happens Live, like, Alexis was like blaming it on the edit. She was like, oh, you're not seeing this side that we filmed, you're not seeing that. So basically on Watch What Happens Live, Alexis was blaming a lot of it on the edit. She's like, oh, we filmed all this stuff that you're not seeing, but they're not forcing Alexis to say what she is saying, just because there are some parts we're not seeing. They can't force you to have these reactions, And I don't even think like, yeah, there could be more context, but I still don't think it makes her like reactions appropriate in any way at all. Yeah, not a fan. And then Emily's like trying to guide Alexis to be compassionate, and Alexis just fails. She like completely fails. Shannon then just gets overwhelmed with all the emotion, and like she goes to the bar, and it's just I don't want to agree with Tamara how she's talking about it, but I see what she's saying. But I don't think she should be saying it. But she should, because then we won't have a show, you know. Alexis then refuses to go to dinner, which Shannon gets excited by, which, you know, essentially then starts a fight with Tamara. Of course. Shannon, one thing I love about Shannon is she has no strategy for filming. She just dumps out her emotion. She just goes with it, and I love it. I love Shannon so much. And Shannon goes, I'll never be in the same room as her again. Breath. After tomorrow. But then again, never after that. Like, it was just so funny to me. Like, never again. And I really like Jen in this, like, supportive therapist best friend role. There's just something about Jen that's just so likable. Like, she's so likable. And I think with people with Alexis and Tamara who are so not likable, it's such interesting juxtaposition. Then Katie tries to apologize to Heather again. And Heather just shuts her down, you know, and it's like, girl, you are working too hard for a storyline. And I know you don't want to be boring, but like, you got to be authentic first. So half the girls go to like a baking class and half the girls go to a forced sound bath, but Shannon is too sick. She can't go. It's 12. She has a fever because it's just too much. It's all too much. The loss, it's too much. But then she decides to go. And Shannon is such a mess. She's coming super late. She's like, I don't know where my hairbrush is. I can't find my brush. Does anyone have a hairbrush? She like can't sit still during the meditation. And it's a sound bath. So they're supposed to be like listening to like the nature. That's the idea of it, is like natural forest sounds are making you relax. And the whole time you just hear like her hacking and coughing and just like, woo. Oh my God, though. This bakery owner, though, with the other girls, I love her just being like, they're all fighting. And she goes, did baking make you guys come together? And they all just shoot her a look. And like, I think, girl, you did. Your baking did help them come together. Back then to the forest. Major point, my favorite part of the whole episode was when Jen and Shannon were just laying flat down on the grass, and Shannon's just like, my God, like just laying flat down. And Jen's just like, you know what? If that's where you are, girl, I'm there with you. Let me figure out what's good about this grass. Let's just face down in the grass. Like, major points for Jen. Like, love you. So then Katie brings it up with Heather, and just Heather's just so not happy. And then Heather is not willing to take it in because to her it's not the correct place or the time. But also because Heather likes an apology if you say, hey, I fucked up. It's my bad. Da 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 da. Katie's just trying to shift blame to change Heather's point of view of her because she wants to be equal to Heather, and Heather has lowered her. And it's just like, it's not going to happen. It's not happening. Yeah. Okay. So then the women get ready for the fashion show. Emily is very annoyed. Her and Alexis are wearing the same dress at one point because they have very different body types. And you can just tell, like, so for the other look, Heather told her to bring jeans, and all the other women were in black slacks. And Emily was like, why am I in jeans? And everyone else is in like black pants. And she was put in like an oversized sweater, and she just like clearly didn't like how she was dressed, like was clearly uncomfortable. But then Heather kept asking her, like, hey, are you comfortable? Do you feel good? Do you like what you're wearing? Da, 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 da. And she kept saying, yeah, but she was like uncomfortable. I don't know. I see both sides because I get just want to be like, I'm fine and power through. And it's like so personal. But what could, I don't think Heather's intention was to be hurtful. I love Terry showed up. Love Terry so much. Love him. And then Tamara once again wants to like shift all the blame back to Gina on the whole Heather and the paparazzi gate. And Heather then buys what Tamara's putting down. She's like, okay, like you're saying Gina said this because she wants to use me for like a real estate connection. I can believe that. But I really think Heather and Tamara's like tactic right here is a diversion. Because they don't want the whole season just to be Shannon and Alexis. They all need to bring some good drama in too. And Shannon just like, she leaves the event. It's too much for her. It's too much. Which it is. It is too much for Shannon. And Alexis tries to hug her and Shannon just says no and walks away. So I was thinking, if her boyfriend Ryan is a 13-year-old boy, because he's like, sex. I get to have sex with her. Sex. So is Alexis Blina. She is a 13-year-old girl. Because she talks about sex with Johnny J so much. And it just feels like a kid who's not actually having sex. You know? Like, yeah. And then, okay. So then they all confront Gina at the bike riding thing. And Gina just like, she flips out. She loses it. Gina and Emily defend Gina. And Gina calls Katie a liar over and over and over again. And then Tamara's like, you must be guilty because you're so defensive. And Gina's like, no, guys, I'm being defensive because I'm fucking losing it. And then she cries, which I get, you know. And then Heather changed her sides back to Gina. And then Heather, I love her, like, to calm everyone down. She goes, Gina, everyone here loves you. Gina, everyone here supports you. And it was just such a funny place for the episode to end. Like, they had a little chatter after that, but I just like, Gina, everyone here loves you. Everyone here supports you. Well, this was a very fun episode. Please be sure to follow us on every single platform. We are on Spotify. We are on Apple. We are on YouTube. We are on the iHeartRadio app. If anyone is listening to us on there, I don't know. But yeah, like, subscribe, all the things. Book club is coming up. What remains? Carol Ratswell. I thought I had it behind me. I don't. Different setup today. But bye guys. Love you.